There are moments when a man spends weeks trying to figure out whether a woman likes him, while she's already made a quiet decision in her own heart. Not a dramatic one. Not the kind you see in movies. A private decision, one she may never even say out loud. And strangely, many men miss it completely because they're looking for fireworks instead of small, ordinary moments. Before we go any further, if these kinds of conversations help you see people and yourself a little more clearly, subscribe and stay with me. There are things we rarely say out loud here, and maybe that's exactly why they matter. Sometimes a woman doesn't choose the loudest man in the room. She notices the one who feels steady, safe. Interesting enough that her mind keeps wandering back to him when she's doing something completely unrelated. That's where this begins, not with attraction, not even with romance, with attention, real attention. Have you ever caught yourself thinking about someone for no reason at all? You're making coffee, driving home, reading something, and suddenly they're there. No invitation, just there. Women often experience something similar, not because they've lost control, but because certain people quietly become emotionally important before they fully understand why. And that's where many men get confused. They expect certainty to look obvious. It rarely does. She might still tease you, still disappear for a day, still act completely normal around everyone else. Because choosing someone emotionally isn't the same as announcing it. Sometimes it's something she's still trying to understand herself. Picture this, you're talking after work. Nothing extraordinary is happening. You're discussing terrible coffee, annoying traffic, maybe a joke neither of you explains very well. Then there's this tiny pause. Not awkward, just quiet. She looks at you for half a second longer than the conversation requires. Not because she's trying to impress you, because for a moment, she forgets to hide that she's comfortable. Comfort is strange. People think attraction always feels exciting. But often, real attraction begins when excitement settles into ease, when silence doesn't feel like work anymore. There's something almost nobody notices. When a woman begins imagining you inside ordinary moments, something shifts. She isn't only wondering if you're attractive, she's quietly asking herself another question. What would life actually feel like around this person? That question changes everything. Because fantasy is easy, daily life is different. Can I laugh around him? Can I disagree with him? Will he make simple days feel lighter or heavier? Many men believe they're being evaluated during the impressive moments. The expensive dinner, the perfect outfit, the clever text. Sometimes those matter. But in many cases, she's paying closer attention when nothing impressive is happening. How you treat a waiter, whether you interrupt, how patient you are when plans change, how you react when something doesn't go your way. Those ordinary moments become emotional evidence, not proof, evidence, and she collects it quietly, without realizing she's doing it. That's why some men are shocked months later when she says she liked them almost from the beginning. They replay every conversation. Really? Back then? Yes, back then. While you were worrying about saying exactly the right thing, she was watching how you made people feel. That's often what stays with someone, not perfection, the emotional atmosphere around you. But don't mistake kindness for choosing. Those aren't the same. Some women are naturally warm. Some are friendly with almost everyone. So how do you know when something deeper has already started? When her attention is becoming personal instead of simply polite. Oddly enough, it doesn't begin with what she gives you. It begins with what she quietly stops giving everyone else. It's easy to notice when someone is talking to you. What's much harder to notice is when they're slowly pulling everyone else into the background, not in a dramatic way. No grand gesture, no sudden confession, just tiny changes that almost disappear if you're not paying attention. Imagine you're in a group, people are laughing, someone tells a story, everyone joins in. She smiles too, but every few moments, her eyes drift back to you. Not because you're speaking, you're not. You're just standing there, listening. And somehow, she's checking your reaction more than anyone else's. That little habit says more than most compliments ever could. Often, when someone has become emotionally important, their opinion begins to carry a little more weight than everyone else's. not because they're trying to impress them, because their emotional world has quietly made room for that person. And that's the first sign many men overlook. She starts measuring moments through your response. Did you laugh? Did you understand the joke? Did that comment bother you? You might never notice it. She probably doesn't notice she's doing it either. Human attention has a funny way of revealing priorities before our words ever do. Then something else begins to happen. She remembers things, not the obvious things. Anyone can remember your birthday if it's written somewhere. Anyone can remember your favorite sports team after hearing it 10 times. I'm talking about the tiny details you mentioned once and forgot 5 minutes later. Maybe you casually said your grandmother always made tea a certain way. Weeks pass. Then one afternoon she laughs and says, "You probably hate this tea. Didn't you say your grandmother made it much stronger?" You stop for a second, because you barely remembered telling her. Why did she? Often it's because emotionally meaningful information sticks differently. When someone matters, your brain doesn't only hear facts, it quietly files away little pieces of them, not as data, as connection. There's another moment that tends to surprise men. She starts sharing things that don't make her look particularly impressive. Think about that. In the beginning, most people show polished versions of themselves. We all do. We choose our better stories. We hide awkward memories. We smooth out rough edges. It's human. But as emotional safety grows, something changes. She tells you about the presentation that went badly, the recipe she completely ruined, the time she misunderstood someone and felt embarrassed for days. None of those stories make her look perfect. That's exactly the point. Vulnerability usually arrives in small pieces before it arrives in big ones. She's quietly asking a question without saying it. If you see more of the real me, will you stay the same? Notice something important here. This doesn't automatically mean she's in love. People can open up for many reasons. Some personalities are naturally open. Some people simply enjoy deep conversations. That's why context matters. One sign by itself rarely tells the whole story, but when these quiet moments begin stacking together, her attention, her memory, her comfort, her willingness to lower the mask just a little, a pattern starts forming, and patterns often tell us more than isolated moments ever can. Now, let's talk about something that confuses almost every man. She doesn't always reply immediately. Sometimes she disappears for hours, maybe even a day. Your mind starts filling the silence. Maybe she's losing interest. Maybe I imagined everything. It's amazing how quickly uncertainty can rewrite an entire story. But then she comes back, not with a dry answer, not with the kind of reply someone sends out of obligation. She responds to something you mentioned yesterday. She asks how your meeting went. She remembers the movie you planned to watch, almost as if the conversation never really stopped in her mind. That difference matters. Life gets busy. People have responsibilities. A delayed reply doesn't always reveal someone's feelings. The quality of their return often says much more than the timing of their absence. Because when someone has quietly chosen to keep you in their emotional world, distance doesn't erase curiosity. It simply delays its expression. And there's one habit that makes this even more interesting. It's so subtle that many men mistake it for coincidence, when in reality, it may be one of the clearest emotional shifts of all. You probably won't notice it the first time, or the second. It slips into ordinary life so naturally that it barely feels important, until one day you look back and realize it kept happening. You're walking out of a cafe. Someone says something funny. Without thinking, she turns toward you first, not the loudest person, not the person who told the joke, you, as if your reaction completes the moment. That isn't something people usually plan. It's often something they feel. When another person starts becoming emotionally significant, our attention begins to orbit them in quiet ways. We want to know what they think, how they interpreted what just happened, whether they found it funny, awkward, meaningful. It's less about agreement, more about connection. There's another moment that carries even more weight. You tell her something that matters to you, not a dramatic life story, just something honest. Maybe you admit you've been questioning your career lately, or you mention that you're trying to become more patient because you don't like the person you become when you're frustrated. You expect advice, or maybe a quick, "You'll figure it out." Instead, she pauses, not because she doesn't know what to say, because she's choosing her words carefully. People usually don't slow down for conversations they don't value. They slow down when they're afraid of misunderstanding someone who matters. That little pause, it can be easy to miss, but often it's a sign of emotional investment. She's no longer responding just to keep the conversation going. She's responding because your feelings have become important enough to handle gently, and then something even quieter begins. She starts bringing you into her future, without calling it the future. Listen carefully to the way people speak when someone has already found a place in their mind. "You'd probably love this restaurant. We should see that movie someday. You'd get along with my brother. I can already imagine what you'd say." None of those sentences are promises. They're invitations, tiny mental rehearsals. She's beginning to picture you inside experiences that haven't happened yet. That doesn't mean she's planning your wedding. It simply means your presence no longer belongs only to today. You've quietly entered tomorrow. Most men don't recognize how meaningful that can be. They're waiting for someone to say, "I like you." Meanwhile, someone has already started making space for them in little pieces of her life. But there's a trap here, a very common one. The moment a man notices these signs, he sometimes becomes different. He starts performing, trying harder, thinking before every sentence, editing himself, watching every text, every expression, every silence. Ironically, that's often when the natural connection begins to disappear, because what attracted her wasn't flawless behavior. It was the feeling she had around you before you became afraid of losing it. Confidence isn't pretending not to care. People misunderstand that all the time. Real confidence is allowing someone to know you without constantly trying to control what they think. That's much harder, and strangely, much more attractive. Have you ever noticed how some conversations leave you feeling lighter? Nothing spectacular happened. No deep confession, no dramatic flirting. Yet hours later, you're still smiling. Not because of what was said, because of how you felt while saying it. Emotions attach themselves to people in surprising ways. Sometimes a woman isn't remembering your exact words. She's remembering that she felt calm, curious, accepted, comfortable enough to laugh at herself. Those feelings become associated with you, not permanently, not magically, just gradually, and gradual change is often the strongest kind. Still, there's one sign that makes almost everything we've talked about seem small. It's the moment she stops protecting her image and starts protecting the connection instead. That's the shift most people never see coming. And once it happens, the relationship, whatever it eventually becomes, is no longer moving in only one direction. There comes a point where something quietly changes. Not in the way she looks at you, not in the way she smiles. Those things can happen for 100 different reasons. The real shift happens somewhere much deeper. She begins caring less about looking perfect and more about making sure the connection doesn't break. That sounds simple. It isn't. Because most people spend the early stages of getting to know someone protecting their image. They choose the right words, hide the messy emotions, pretend they weren't disappointed, pretend they weren't nervous, pretend they didn't overthink your last message. It's easier to protect your pride than your connection. Then one day, she sends another text after you misunderstood her, not because she enjoys explaining herself, because she doesn't want silence to become distance. That matters, more than many men realize. Imagine this: you make a joke, it lands badly. You notice her expression change. For a second you think, well, that's over. But instead of disappearing, she says, "I don't think you meant it the way it sounded." That's a small sentence, yet emotionally, it's enormous. She gave you the benefit of the doubt. People don't usually do that for someone they've already decided doesn't matter. Often, when we value a relationship, we look for reasons to understand instead of reasons to leave. It doesn't mean ignoring bad behavior. Healthy boundaries still matter. But it does mean allowing room for human mistakes. And that room, it's often offered only to people who have become emotionally important. There's another sign that almost hides inside everyday life. She starts letting you see her in ordinary moods, not just the cheerful version, not just the playful version. Maybe she's tired, maybe work was frustrating, maybe she's quieter than usual. She isn't trying to entertain you anymore, she's simply being. That's surprisingly intimate. Many people believe attraction is about showing your best side. Long-term emotional closeness usually grows when someone no longer feels exhausted by keeping up a performance. She trusts that a quiet evening won't make you lose interest, that she doesn't have to sparkle every minute. Think about how rare that is, to sit beside someone, neither of you saying much, no pressure to impress, no pressure to rescue awkward silence, just two people existing in the same space. Those moments don't look exciting from the outside, but emotionally, they're often where real attachment begins taking root. Then comes something that catches many men completely off guard. She starts challenging you, not attacking you, not trying to control you, challenging you. You mention you're about to quit something you've cared about for years. Instead of immediately agreeing, she asks softly, "Are you sure you're giving up because it's right, or because you're tired?" That question lingers. Maybe it even annoys you at first, because it forces you to look inward. People rarely ask difficult questions when they don't care about the answer. Sometimes the easiest thing is to stay agreeable. The harder thing is risking a little tension because you genuinely want someone to make a choice they'll be proud of later. Of course, this can happen in friendships too. Not every meaningful connection becomes romance. That's worth remembering. Human relationships are rarely as neat as we'd like them to be. Still, when admiration, emotional safety, curiosity, and growing investment begin weaving together, something starts becoming visible, not certainty, direction. And direction is often far more valuable than dramatic declarations. But perhaps the strongest sign isn't found in what she says, or even in what she does. It's hidden inside what happens to you. Because without realizing it, you begin changing too. Not because she asked you to, because being seen by someone in this way quietly awakens parts of you that had been asleep for a very long time. And that's where the final piece of this puzzle begins. It's a strange feeling. To realize someone may have seen something in you long before you ever saw it in yourself. Not because they believed you were perfect. Far from it. They noticed the hesitation in your voice, the moments when you laughed a little too quickly to hide your nerves, the way you sometimes changed the subject when the conversation drifted too close to your own dreams. And somehow, those things didn't push them away. They made you feel more real. Many men spend years believing they have to earn affection by becoming someone impressive, more successful, more confident, more entertaining, always adding something. But often, emotional connection grows in a different direction, not through performance, through presence. Think back to the people you felt safest with. You probably don't remember every sentence they spoke. You remember how your shoulders relaxed around them, how you didn't have to rehearse every word before saying it, how silence wasn't something to escape, it was simply part of being together. That feeling can't be forced. It develops over time, one ordinary conversation at a time, one shared laugh, one honest disagreement, one moment where neither person needed to pretend. And if a woman has already begun choosing you emotionally, this is often what she's protecting, not an image of you, the feeling the two of you create together. That's why one of the strongest signs is also the easiest to overlook. She becomes interested in your growth without trying to redesign you. There's a difference, a big one. She celebrates when you accomplish something you've worked for. She notices when you seem more at peace than you were ago. She asks how that project turned out because she genuinely remembered it mattered to you, not because she expects you to become someone else, but because she enjoys watching you become more fully yourself. Healthy attraction often leaves room for individuality. It doesn't erase it. And there's something quietly beautiful about that, because love, when it grows in a healthy way, is rarely about finding someone who fills every empty space. It's often about finding someone who doesn't ask you to abandon the parts of yourself that still need time. The uncertain parts, the hopeful parts, even the wounded parts that you're still learning to understand. That doesn't mean every connection lasts forever. Sometimes feelings change. Sometimes timing gets in the way. Sometimes two genuinely good people simply want different lives. Psychology can't predict every ending. People are wonderfully complicated. But the moments we've explored today point towards something deeper than clever flirting or perfect timing. They point toward emotional choice, the quiet decision that happens long before anyone says, "I like you." It shows itself in attention, in remembered details, in gentle honesty, in the willingness to repair small misunderstandings instead of letting them become walls, in imagining someone beside you during ordinary Tuesdays, not just exciting weekends. So if you've been searching for one unmistakable sign, you may be asking the wrong question. Instead of wondering, "Has she chosen me?" Try noticing something else. Do we both feel more like ourselves when we're together? Because when the answer begins to feel like yes, when conversations leave you calmer instead of more anxious, when respect grows alongside attraction, when neither of you has to constantly prove your worth, you may already be standing inside something real, and perhaps the most surprising part of all, the woman who has quietly chosen you isn't usually waiting for you to become a different man. More often, she's hoping the man she already sees will finally believe he's been worth choosing all along.